Hi volunteers, I'm Katie Hansen, the volunteer manager at Great and Small, and I'm joined by my colleague, our program manager, Paige Clark. Welcome to orientation. The first thing we're going to talk about is coming into the arena and a few safety measures that we want to make sure that everybody is aware of when working around horses, especially in lessons with riders. The first thing I want to talk about is approaching the horse safely. We encourage everyone to approach the horse safely and quietly. We never want to approach the horse directly in their face because that might spook or make them back up. We want to make sure that they feel calm and quiet and safe in our presence. So the best way to approach them is to put a hand on their neck and give them a pat. Okay? If you are working around the horse and need to walk behind the horse, there are two ways in order that are safe to do that. If you have to work in close quarters, you want to walk closely behind the horse's hindquarters. So you want to touch them on their hindquarters and walk right directly next to their hindquarters, and then come around, touching them the full time. If you need to, if you have more space and in a larger arena such as this one, you can walk fully 6 feet behind the horse, and that is the safest place to be. The least safe place to be behind a horse is about 3 feet. This is the extent to which their leg can reach with the greatest force. So it's a matter of physics. When you stand back here, if a horse decides to kick, which very fortunately our horses don't, but if you do stand here, you're actually in the kicking range. So this is a bad place to stand when you want to cross behind. Now you've probably already watched our safety and phase reopening video, but just to add on, for phase 2, we've included horse leaders in all of our lessons. So each rider will have their own horse leader. Everyone will wear masks, riders, horse leaders, and instructors in all lessons. And we are still practicing all of our safety and sanitation procedures. We are spraying down gates and any kind of stall handles. All tack is being wiped off and cleaned between lessons. We have sanitation stations out at the entrance to the barn and at the entrance to the arena for all participants and volunteers. Today we're going to talk about being a sidewalker and the sidewalker's very, very important role during a program lesson. So first let's talk about what a sidewalker's job is and what they're responsible for. So first, we want our sidewalkers to walk next to the rider and support them in the way that the instructor describes. All right? So what they need to do, sidewalkers need to, most importantly, follow the instructor's directions and aid in helping the rider with stability. They will communicate instructor directions if the rider seems to be a little inattentive or struggling to figure out what the instructor wants them to do. So for the most part, we want our riders to be as independent as possible. So what we do is we guide them, not necessarily do things for them. So that's our goal as the sidewalker. It's very important for a sidewalker to be attentive and to stay in position. Right now I'm standing in correct sidewalker position. I am about half an arm length away, and I am in line with the rider's hip, who, when she is sitting up straight, is in line with her ear, her shoulder, her hip, and her heel. Part of what we help with the sidewalkers is correct positioning, but we don't want to pick on them. We want them to kind of sit on the horse as they're naturally capable of doing and help adjust them as the instructor directs during the lesson. Most importantly, we want to leave what the horse is doing to the leader. All of our horse leaders are specially trained. They go through an additional training and even additional practices to make sure that they are adept in handling the horses, especially during the lesson. Your job as a sidewalker is to focus strictly on the rider. In addition, we want to make sure that we're maintaining rider safety on the ground around the equine. So we want to keep them from going behind the horse. We want to encourage them, if they want to walk around the horse, to walk around in front of the horse. And we also want to make sure that they're sitting quietly and listening to instructions from the instructor in the saddle. Last but not least, we require all sidewalkers need to be able to be physically capable of running next to the horse down the long side of the arena, okay, once or twice during the lesson. They will help in stability by using different holds and also different verbal and physical cues to help the rider. Part of the sidewalker's important job is to aid the rider and the instructor while the rider is mounting. What we want to do as a sidewalker is make sure that we are facing the back of the horse. The instructor will bring the participant to the mounting block and will help them from the left side. While you're standing on the right side, you're going to help weight the saddle to keep it steady while the rider is mounted. So you're either going to hold the stirrup leather like this and put a mild amount of pressure to keep the saddle even and steady, or you can use your hand to weight the stirrup like this. It's a little more effective if you use the stirrup, if you put your hand on the stirrup leather, so you might try that first. The second thing that's important that a sidewalker does during the mount is keeps the rider's leg coming over the saddle so they don't hit the horse in the back with their foot or their knee, and therefore disturb the horse as they're trying to stand quietly. So, Paige, when you're ready.
All right, Alina, we're going to hop on up on our mounting block right here, and Katie, if you could give us a little bit of weight in our offside stirrup there. And then Alina, you can grab your reins in your left hand, your left foot in your stirrup, and then swing your leg up and over. Very nice.
It's important to note that as the rider's leg is coming over, I'm not touching any of the joints. So I don't grab the ankle and I don't grab the knee. I either help guide with a light touch on the thigh, or more importantly, on the calf as so. The next thing I want to do is make sure that I help the rider's foot into the correct place on the stirrup. All of our stirrups are safety stirrups, so the rider's stirrup will come off if the rider gets into trouble. But I do want to make sure that the stirrup is placed pretty squarely underneath the ball of the foot, and that I encourage the rider's heel to come down a little bit as best as they're physically able to do. When it comes to a dismount, we do the same thing in reverse. So we want to encourage the rider to put their reins forward. We're going to encourage the rider to lean forward and hug the horse. We want to make sure the rider's foot is out of the stirrup and there's no encumbering. When the instructor will give the direction as to when they're ready for the rider to come off, they will always be on the left side to help the rider dismount. So whenever you're ready, I'm going to guide her leg, starting from the calf and the top of the thigh, so that it comes over the back of the saddle and doesn't hit the horse in the back. Before the lesson gets started, the instructor will probably ask the rider to pick up their reins. The way that you can help the rider hold on to their reins if they are struggling to find the right hold is by thinking that the rider needs to hold the reins like they're holding ice cream cones. So, Alina, let's pick up your reins. There you go. As you can see, she's holding them in her hand with her thumbs up like she's holding an ice cream cone, and she has dropped her pinky out to the outside of the rein. And that's how we want her to hold her reins. The instructor will tell her what length to hold her reins as well. There are a couple of holds that we teach all of our sidewalkers that you may or may not utilize in lessons. It depends upon what the instructor prefers and what the rider's needs are. The two holds that we use the most are the heel hold and the full hold. The heel hold is like holding a glass of water with your inside arm. And you want to just under the ankle, place a light touch on the heel like this in order to help the rider with stability. Oftentimes we'll use a heel hold during trot sets to make sure that they help keep the rider's heel down and that it keeps them a little more stable in whether they're posting or whether they're doing a 2-point. The other hold we use is a little more stabilizing hold. It's called a full hold. The way we do the full hold is laying our arm across the rider's thigh gently. If we squeeze too hard, it will hurt them, so we have to be careful. And then putting our fingers underneath the flap of the saddle, which comes apart from the base of the saddle here, as you can see, right? And just doing a light hold here. And this will help with stabilizing the upper body of the rider a little bit better than a heel hold will. The other thing the sidewalkers can be responsible for and can help the instructor within a lesson is as they're listening to the instructor directions, we can help our riders with verbal cues and with physical cues in order to aid their learning. We have 2 verbal cues that we use with horses. They are walk on and whoa. When we ask, as a sidewalker, when a rider is asked to walk on, we want to encourage them. I usually wait and count to 3 for a response as a sidewalker. So Paige is going to ask Elena to walk on here.
All right, Elena, let's ask our horse to walk on.
Elena, let's walk on. Walk on. We don't start to walk on until the rider has said walk on. To say, now to stop, our other verbal cue is whoa. Elena, say whoa, whoa. And we'll stop here. Very good. So those are the two verbal cues that we use. The physical cues that we might use in order to help a rider learn to turn or stop their horse is called a hand over hand, where we gently guide the rider's hand. Sometimes we might guide the hand to close over the reins if their fingers are loose and they're losing their reins. Sometimes we might guide the rider by just gently placing our hand over their arm to help them open the rein to turn right or open the rein to turn left, depending upon where the instructor is telling us to turn. So let's walk on. Walk on. There we go. So I'm going to walk next to Elena.
All right, Elena, let's go ahead and turn to right.
I'm going to open her hand slightly so that she opens her arm, and then I'm going to let her go, hoping that it stays. If she needs a little extra guidance, I might open it a little bit more and then let her go. The idea is to teach the rider to do it as independently as possible. Now, when we want to help them learn to whoa,
Alina, when we get to the letter B, we're going to ask our horse to whoa. We're going to pull back on our reins and use our voice to tell our horse to stop.
if she's not responding within about 3 seconds, then what we can do is we can ask her to help her pull her reins a little bit back to her belly button or her hip so she can effectively use a whoa. Mounting from the ramp is for riders who have some kind of physical limitation in which they need a little extra help and a little extra lift to get into the saddle, or for riders who sometimes exhibit a little more anxiety that they struggle with mounting at the mounting block. So, because the horse is surrounded on 3 sides, we want to make sure that we're efficient, but also not rushing a ramp mount. We don't want to keep the horses in here long, but they're all trained to stay and be quiet while we're mounting. As a sidewalker, you want to pull the stirrups down before the mount. The instructor will guide you. And again, what I'm going to do as a sidewalker is I'm going to guide Alina's leg over to make sure that she doesn't hit the back of the horse and that she settles well into the saddle. So, you want to mount?
All right, Alina, let's take a few steps forward so we can get closer to our saddle. We're going to put our hands on the saddle right up here. And we're going to take our right leg and swing it over behind. Good boy. Very nice.
Okay. When we're exiting, once we have our rider mounted, when we exit, we want to use a full thigh hold, okay, as we go down the steps. So whenever you're ready,
What do we tell our horse, Alina?
Walk on.
Walk nice. On.
Walk on, Zip. Come on. Zip, walk on.
the leader will very slowly lead the horse out of the ramp and then halt. As a sidewalker, you can help put the rider's foot in their stirrup correctly and then walk over and open the gate for the horse and rider to enter while the instructor stays with the horse. Gate, whenever we push all of our gates, push inward into the arena, and whenever we come into the arena and there's a horse present, we want to yell gate. That is a standard that we have to abide by for our center accreditation. So.
All right, Alina, we can ask our horse to walk on now. Walk on. Let's use our right rein to steer into the arena. We're going to go into the center and halt.
After the horse has entered the arena, the sidewalker can close the gate. The instructor will stay with the mounted rider until the sidewalker has returned. Because our riders this session only have one sidewalker, as the sidewalker you will be on the off side or the right side of the horse. The horse leader always stays and leads from the left. Talk a little bit about an emergency dismount as well. So one of the things you can be responsible for as a sidewalker is paying very clear attention to any of the instructor's instructions. Sometimes we'll have need to do a dismount a little bit faster in order to get a rider off if there's maybe a thunderstorm, if they're getting impatient and they're ready to get off a little early, or something, or the horse is exhibiting maybe some impatient behaviors that we don't feel it's safe to continue the lesson. So what we're going to do as a sidewalker is we're going to drop the stirrup, reins forward, hug your horse, help the leg over, and what will happen is the instructor will then pull make sure that the participant is clear from the horse. As a sidewalker, I will step all the way back, and the horse leader will lead the horse away from the middle of the scenario.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch our sidewalking video and to get a little bit more information on the types of holds and verbal cues and scenarios that you may be in as a sidewalker. To give you some more info, if you are a family sidewalker, if you're coming in sidewalking with your participants for the first time as a family sidewalker as we reopen for phase 2, we do encourage that you leave the instruction up to our certified instructors. So you are there as a sidewalker to reinforce and encourage your rider. You're not there to parent in that very moment though. So we ask you please to let our instructors take on any behavioral issues or anything like that that's happening in the lessons. And we also ask that you try not to fuss with your students too much. We don't want to overwhelm them. Lastly, one major important thing is we ask that you please turn off or leave your cell phones in the car when you are sidewalking in lessons. It's an added distraction that we don't need, and it helps to keep everybody a little bit safer. Thank you very much again for watching our video, and if you have any questions, please let us know, and we are so excited to welcome you back to Great and Small.